Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Jeffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health. And really, without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
You're listening to the sweet and sensual sounds of Nerdery and Murdery.
Seriously, you're an idiot.
Are we hot?
We are.
Nice.
On episode 12 of
Big 12.
Murdery.
Yes.
This episode comes out the 22nd of August.
That is almost my birthday.
It is almost your birthday, and it's
Yes.
right smack in the middle of the heat of the summer.
Yes. It should be hot.
Yeah. I'm not going to get any break because I'm trying to think here on the date. When this comes out, I think I will be in Phoenix and then in Las Vegas later that week.
So in the desert in
I'll
August.
be in the desert in August. So
Nice.
I will have a trip to discuss when I come back from that. Had our usual lunch before we did our third episode of the day.
Yes.
Had me a nice tasty burger and some fries.
I had a burrito, a fajita burrito with onion rings.
William, did you? I know it had onion rings and Spanish rice. Which
Yes, it
was
did.
Interesting.
I just put the Spanish rice in my burrito, and it was delicious.
Will, did you have a good lunch? You gonna lay down on the table, go get yourself sideways, like in the last episode, which was very strange and
Yes,
weird.
he's not answering. He's only nodding. I think he realizes we got him to talk the last episode, and he didn't realize he was doing it at the time.
If you haven't guessed by now,
I am Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your Murdery. again for episode 12.
Big 12.
I have a very distinct feeling this is going to be a long one. So if you've just started episode 12, hopefully you're on a road trip or something equally long so that you can enjoy this one, because I think we will probably go pretty long on this one.
Yeah, I don't know about your Murdery part, but I can tell you this is about a role-playing game that we have played for 30 years.
30 plus years.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been a very, very... So I won't say it until you get in. I'll let you get to it. We've been playing that particular game, the one you're going to discuss, because you've already told it to me, in various times, because we've had times where there's been breaks that we haven't played this, but we have played it off and on for longer than I've been in fantasy football.
Yes. Yes.
So, and I remember when we started it, and I know you're going to get into it, and I'm kind of going ahead a little bit, but I remember when first started the game and the character that I built, we actually took back and revamped. I wanted the idea of that character.
Yes.
But we hadn't really fleshed it out as good as it could have been. And so then really kind of retooled that character. And without a doubt, that is my favorite character of all time.
That you ever played. Yeah.
Of any game that I've ever played, any role-playing game that I've ever played. Because I think I've had some good ones, but that one was my favorite. I know that character almost better than I know myself.
Yes. Well, I would say that, the character that I rolled up originally, I rolled him up in the first edition of the game, and I've played him all the way up through, I believe, the 4th edition. I didn't play him much in the 4th edition. We will get into this here in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, we've already started talking about it. So, like I said, I think this will probably be pretty long with the crosstalk on this one, because this is a subject that both you and I are extremely familiar with. So with that, I will let you take over with the nerdery side of the show.
Thank you. Okay. So this is an RPG game called Shadowrun, and it's been around since 1989. We've been playing it since, I want to say, 92, 93, somewhere around there?
Longer than I had fantasy football.
But before we get to that, I want to go through some general RPG terms, because we're going to be throwing them around a lot. And I want everybody to know what those things are. And we talked about it before when we mentioned Dungeons and Dragons, what a dungeon crawl and a Monty Hall are. So a dungeon crawl is basically what you think it is. It's going around in a dungeon where you don't have a map, and you basically have to write yourself out a map as you go.
It doesn't have to be a dungeon, though.
No. We've done it in basements.
Right. That's a generic term. It could be in a building. It could be in a basement. It could be in an open desert.
Yeah. Or a cityscape. We've done quite a few of these in a cityscape, too.
I mean, it all comes from D&D, the dungeon crawl, which is basically the focal point of your episode.
Yes. A Monty Hall is what you think it is. Monty Hall from the...
Let's Make a Deal.
Yeah, Let's Make a Deal. Only in the role-playing game, it's Monty, Haul, Hall, is it a hall of stuff. So basically what that is especially with newer characters, they'll be running around a dungeon, and if they get to the end of it, they get a lot of treasure at the end. It's to help build the characters up and kind of get new characters or new players excited about gaming.
Well, there's another definition of Monty Hall, which is the HALL, and that's when the characters are in a certain scenario, and it's basically literally which door do you go through?
Door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3?
Right.
What's
all
behind
three of
door
them
number 3?
Have death behind them, but choose one.
Choose one. Oh, hey, it's the treasure. Oh, hey, it's a beholder, which is bad in D&D. Another term is a big bad or a boss monster. That's usually at the end of a session. You'll get a big bad guy or a big boss.
Just like in video games.
Right. They call this a raw. I've never used that term, but it's RAW, raw, or a rule as written. That's an official rule. There's a house rule or a rule of cool. It's a rule used by a particular gaming group. So we use a lot of house rules. Just because it makes the game a little better. Your particular group does this just because.
Well, and one of the things about role-playing games, D&D actually says this in their rule book. I don't know that Shadowrun ever did, but
It does. Well, at least in the first, second, and third edition.
Well, I mean, this specific thing in current D&D books in 5th edition, I've read where it says, don't stay fast and or held down to the rules.
Yeah.
Be willing to adapt as a GM, a game master, for the fun of the players. If the rule doesn't really fit, avoid it.
Yeah, don't use it. Use something else.
Right.
Figure something out. And generally, as you're gaming, you'll figure out, oh, hey, the rule says we should do this, but we think it would be better if we do this. And if everybody agrees on it, that's what you do.
Well, and a good game master is also able to adapt.
Definitely.
I mean, we make jokes we've made jokes over the years in our own gaming group that the game master is, I hit my mic. Sorry. Is out to kill you.
Yes.
They're really not.
No.
I mean, they want to have fun time for everybody. And so there's times where a good GM has to kind of break the rules.
Yeah.
Because
we call that a hand of God.
Hand of God. Can
that's
happen.
another one. Yeah, a hand of God is when your character is going to die.
Edit point, William. Your mic. You're talking over here.
Okay.
No, you might want to turn because you're turning your head.
Okay.
So I'd turn it the other direction.
Like that?
No, the mic the other way.
Oh, like that.
Yeah, because you keep bringing your head over there.
Okay.
There
Darting around. Okay.
There you go. There's
well, so I could see the stuff here. Railroading. That is when a DM takes choices away from the players. It's really not a good idea. You don't do it. I don't do it as a GM, but I have seen people who do, and it makes it for a less fun thing. A campaign is a series of interconnected adventures, usually in the same world. A one-shot is a single gaming session where you just try to do things. We have played games where we just had one-shots. It was, we roll up characters and we would play them for one shot.
Yep.
Module is a pre-published adventure. An NPC is a non-player character. That's basically who the game master controls or the dungeon master controls. We've got an OP, which is a player killer, a monster that is overpowered for the party. A lot of young GMs and DMs. And so, okay, a GM is a game master. A DM is a dungeon master. They are the same thing.
Right.
We will use those roles interchangeably, those words interchangeably, but it's the same person. OP is player killer, where the monster overpowers the party. Now, if you've got a significantly large party, it doesn't matter what level there are, you could put them up against a higher level monster or bad guy. So young DMs will put up these OP, these overpowered monsters, and they'll just kill a whole party. That's no fun for anybody. Nobody likes that.
Or
yeah, I'm going to get to that.
The game master will throw in a big overpowered monster thinking it's going to kill the party.
I'm going to get to that.
Plans go awry.
I'm going to get to that. I didn't GM for a long time because of that. A bodyguard run is where the team or party is hired to protect someone, generally while traveling. This almost always ends badly. A crit is a critical hit. That's where you get either good or bad, a really good dice roll on something. Or a critical fail is where you get no dice on anything. We'll talk about crits too. A Johnson is someone who hires you to do a job in the game. That comes directly from Shadowrun. They're all referred to as Mr. Johnson. You've got different types of players. You've got an agent of chaos, which is an instigator or a distractor. A taskmaster.
In other words, Ziggy.
Yes. A taskmaster who keeps the game going. A note taker and stat person.
Taskmaster keeps the game going. Don and Keith. Okay.
Note taker, stat person.
Ashley.
A rules lawyer.
Keith.
And a peacekeeper. Someone to kind of settle disputes, at the table that are going on.
We've never had a peacekeeper.
Oh, yeah, we have.
No,
Randy's a
we have
peacekeeper.
not.
Yeah. Okay, so
No, he is not.
So what is important about all these types of players is you honestly need someone to fulfill that role in every game you play. And it may be one person who's fulfilling multiple roles.
What was the first one again?
Agent of Chaos.
Oh my God, I'm an agent of chaos.
Yeah,
I never thought about that. Okay.
yeah, but okay, so I was discussing this stuff with Ashley Pollard and my lovely wife, Cree Curtis. And we were sitting around talking about these things because I was going over it with them. I was like, I need to get out of my head and talk about some of these things because I think I'm missing something. And they're like, yeah, you need to talk about the types of characters. And yeah, in Ashley Baylor, sorry, I want to call her Baylor. She just got married. Ashley Pollard's defense, she could come up with statistics faster than anybody I've ever met.
Oh yeah, that's why I love her in the games because number one, I suck at math, and when I GM, I need to do a lot of quick math on damage, and she just pops that out. I mean, she sees the dice roll, she sees the results. All she needs to know is the damage, and she can just. She's amazing. With that.
My God! Oh yeah, and as far as character generation, I don't know anybody who's better because she will take a nuance of a character and figure out how to get the best hit out of the right weapon at the right time. She just knows it.
Yeah, she's really good with that.
Yeah. Okay, so different types of characters that you're going to play. And again, some of these are more D&D specific, but not necessarily. You've got a tank or a barbarian.
Me.
A gun bunny or a fighter.
Me.
An assassin or a rogue.
Not me.
A magic user or a scientist.
Not me. Although I've played one.
Yeah. Tech person, rigger, hacker, builder, artificer, weapons maker, alchemist, multi-user, weapons maker or alchemist. That is one type of person.
Not me.
Depending on what game you're playing, someone will fill the Deus Ex Machina role. Basically, your magic user.
Right.
There's a lot of different words for them, depending on what you're playing. I mean, in some cases, it's super science. I love to play the super scientist. It's one of my favorite types of characters to play, but it's ostensibly a magic user.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You got people who fill in multi-user roles. That would be like your combat mage, your shamans, your druids, your rangers, your clerics. And then you have a face, which is also a bard or a client contact. Right. You need to fill these roles out if you're going to have an enjoyable role-playing experience. Mm-hmm. And honestly, you need these types of players because it makes the game more fun.
Don and Keith usually were the faces.
Yes.
They usually played characters that were the faces. You and I were fighters.
Yes.
Tanks.
Yes.
Agents of Chaos.
Yes.
That was typically yours and my
yes.
role.
Well,
and we fed off each other with that.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot of fun. But you do need a taskmaster because it's not fun if all you're doing is gaming. Occasionally, you need to get the humor into it because it makes the experience more fun.
Right.
And so the taskmaster is not necessarily a rules lawyer. It's someone who's just trying to keep the game moving. There's someone who just goes up and opens the door. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, oh, we're bogged down in talking about this. We need to keep the game going because you can get bogged down.
Really? Us?
Easily.
So there were gaming sessions, multiple, many, where we knew the task at hand.
Yes.
We needed to go to X building and we needed to do Y.
Yeah.
And we would spend the next 3 hours over planning.
Yeah.
On how we were going to do it.
And what was really funny is 9 times out of 10, the first plan we came up with is the first one it was the one we always went with. Right.
But we overplanned it. We overthought it. And but a lot of that as well, it actually got worse as the years went on with gaming because we were so used to the fact that, so for Shadowrun, with the exception of your entry, which you said you're going to talk about.
Yes.
Don and I were the 2 longest standing game masters, and the groups knew we were going to throw things at you. That we were going to throw wrenches in the works. Yeah. That you thought you were doing one thing, and we would suddenly give you a twist.
Hence the bodyguard run.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. So it's Shadowrun. Okay, so we'll talk about Shadowrun broadly because this is the game we're talking about, and we played it for 30 years. It's a science fiction fantasy tabletop role-playing game set in the near future in a fiction. I cannot talk today. A fictional universe in which there's cybernetics, magic, and fantasy creatures all coexist. It combines genres of cyberpunk, urban fantasy, and crime with occasional elements of conspiracy, horror, and detective fiction. I think that is the best description of Shadowrun I have ever heard.
Well, and it was born out of Neuromancer.
Yeah.
William
Gibson's Neuromancer.
Neuromancer is really where this was birthed from.
Yeah.
Because that was the cyberpunk book, and the whole idea from it really kind of came from there.
Yes. Well, it was released in 1989, and it's remained one of the most popular role-playing games. Now, generally, when people think of role-playing games, they think of D&D.
Right.
Number 2 is Shadowrun.
Yeah.
At least for a lot of people. Everybody I know, it's D&D or Shadowrun. And with our group, it was basically Shadowrun before it was D&D.
Yeah. I mean, I had played D&D before Shadowrun.
No. What I mean is when you think of a role-playing game, your first thought of Shadowrun.
Shadowrun is the first one I'm going to think of, absolutely.
So they originally published the first edition in 1989. There were some overpowered rules. Mm-hmm. So when they released the second edition, it was basically the same rule set. They just fixed some of the things that were broken. Which
is what they've done. They ended up doing that in third edition, too.
Third edition did the same thing. So, you got first edition in 1989, second edition in 1992, third edition in 1998, and basically that's what we played forever, first, second, and third edition variations. Like a 2.5, something like that. In 2005, they came out with a fourth edition, which changed the dice rules. Mm-hmm. I have played it a few times. I do not care for it.
I don't either. That's why whenever I play Shadowrun, it's mostly third edition with some second mixed in.
Yeah, like a 2.75, basically.
Right.
Yeah. They have come out with a 20th anniversary edition in 2009, which I think was a different edition, but I think it's just fourth edition with some prettier books. In 2013, they came out with the fifth edition, and 2019 they came out with a sixth edition, which they call the Sixth World. And I will get to why they call it the Sixth World. The title is taken from the game's main premise. It's a near future world damaged by a massive magical event where industrial espionage and corporate warfare runs rampant. A Shadowrun is a successful data theft, physical break-in at a rival corporation or organization. It's one of the main tools that are employed by both corporate rivals and underworld figures. So basically, how this runs out is you are off of the grid. You live in a very technical society, but you don't have a SIN, which is basically like a social security number. So your
serial identification number. Thank you.
You're a non-person, but you can still function in this society. Corporations will pay you to go and steal things for them.
Right.
You're a deniable asset.
Right. And did you already mention? I mean, I don't know if you did that. The majority of the game. Mm-hmm. Is based in Seattle.
Yeah, I was about to get there. Yeah.
But it's in America.
Yeah.
But America's different.
Yes, America has been divided up.
Right. And it's because corporations now run the world.
Yes, corporations own everything.
And they're the government.
Yeah. Honestly, the UCAS, which is what?
United
Canadian and American States.
Thank you.
The United Canadian and American States are what was America and Canada. You also have the Confederacy, which is
the CSA.
It's basically the southern states. They are ostensibly still part of America. They have a separate Congress,
right?
But it doesn't matter because none of them have any real power.
Yeah, and the UCAS is basically the Midwest above the Mason-Dixon, out east, and Seattle.
Seattle, a little enclave in Seattle. Oh, and I think they've got like a little enclave in Denver because there's a free city in Denver because it's right there around a whole bunch of different countries. The Native Americans took North America back,
right?
Except for the UCAS, the CSA, and then Denver and Seattle, which are considered free cities, essentially. We get the idea of it being the sixth world. It's based on the Mayan long count calendar, which began in 2012. That's where Shadowrun basically starts. The rest of most of my notes are about fourth edition dice rules. I just wanted to get that stuff out of the way. Now let's talk about Shadowrun.
Sure.
So yeah, this game is you get to use magic and guns. That's what's so cool about it. Guns and magic. The character he's talking about, he started out with Primus.
Primus.
Did you roll him up at first edition?
I did. Okay. So that's the one. That's the character I was talking about that I initially rolled him up, and the basic idea of Primus was there. This was a thug who turned to running the shadows, is what they call it. That was hired out to do jobs basically as muscle. Primus was huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge. The last I recall, and again, this is where I say I almost know this character better than I know myself. Primus was 8 feet 4 inches tall, and he weighed 595 pounds.
Yes. And a lot of that was metal too.
Oh, yeah, it was metal, but he was huge. He had tusks. He had horns. One tusk was broken from a fight when he was a ganger. But yeah, originally Primus was an axe wielder.
Yeah.
He walked around with a battle axe. Might have had a pistol, but later on Primus became the walking tank.
Yeah. He actually had a ballista
missile launcher strapped to my back.
Yeah, that would come up over his shoulder and fire like a War Machine.
I had light machine guns. I had pistols. Actually, no, I didn't have pistols. I just had the light machine guns and the Vindicator chain gun.
Yeah. And at one point you also had a laser.
The MP laser. That's right. I had the LMG on one hip and the laser on the other hip.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a troll.
Yeah.
He was a big, ugly, nasty, smelly troll. He was uncouth. He couldn't read or write. He was, as far as intelligence, Primus wasn't real smart, but he was street smart.
Yeah.
And he knew how to be a muscle.
Yes.
He knew how to fight, and he knew how to take things out. But other than that, Primus was kind of dumb. And that's how I played the character.
Yeah, he did.
He would sometimes wander into bad situations.
But the thing was, he played him in a way that he was very friendly when he spoke to people, because deep down he was kind of a kind soul. So he would walk in and say something innocuous, but when it's coming out of 8'4", 600 pounds, it's kind of creepy.
Right. And, a lot of people were scared of Primus at first sight because he was just this big hulking creature, and he knew how to look mean.
Yeah.
And his best friend was Darkwind.
Yes, the character that I played. He was an elf. Okay, we probably ought to mention this. Okay, so in Shadowrun, as I said, there was a magical event. You can play a human, an elf, a dwarf, a troll, an orc, and then there's some
variants.
Meta variants,
minotaurs, and
giants. They're all variations of human, orc, dwarf, troll, and elf.
Yeah.
Some of those were a lot of fun to play, but and then you got like vampires exist too. I played a vampire.
And vampires was from a virus, Vitus.
Vitus.
The virus Vitus that turned people into quote unquote vampires. So it was a sickness.
HMHVV, human, metahuman, vampiric virus.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you'd have that, and but we in our original group we had you as the elf, me as the troll. We had Khan that was a human.
Yep.
Dadgummit. Gail's character,
Athena. She was a human.
And we had missing someone in there.
One of the Snake Brothers.
That's right. We had the Snake.
They were
brothers.
both human.
I think they were both human.
Yeah.
And then later on, Randy very often played a dwarf or an orc.
A dwarf and an orc. Yeah.
Ashley almost always plays an elf.
Jerry Holland played an elf. Remember that? I like
Yeah.
the elf character that he played. That was a lot of fun.
His was a combat Gumby though too.
Yeah.
And that's what we had. We had the combat Gumbies. We had the magic users. We
Yep.
had the faces.
Yep.
We had the techs. We
Yeah.
had the explosives expert.
Hello. That's that multi-role person I was talking about. So Darkwind, the character I played, he was an assassin, he was an explosives expert, and he knew about poisons and shooting. He was basically worthless for everything else because I played him in such a way where he had no internal monologue edit. Anything he thought, he just said.
Right.
So it was so much fun because when we would get in situations where we were bogged down doing the planning, he'd just get up and go do something crazy. And that's the point where you've got the person who basically the person who keeps the game going. Mm-hmm. Randy plays that character a lot. He's just real quiet about it. He'd be like, okay, I'm going to do this now.
That's true. That's true.
And then it keeps everything going. But you need that. You also need to be able to break down and do goofy stuff too. Mm-hmm. So all of these things are important to play a good role-playing game if you want to play it for years.
Which we did.
Yes. And it was a lot of fun. And we spent hours doing it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, originally we met on Sunday nights. Mm-hmm.
Because we all had Monday off.
Right. We all had Monday off. We would meet at whomever's house on Sunday night. I was typically, in the fall, I'm coming off watching football. Mm-hmm. And there was a time period where we always watched Next Generation before we game.
Yes.
But then we'd start gaming, and we would game until 2, 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Every single Sunday.
There was a point where we were playing a strategy board game one night. We were playing Shadowrun one night, and we would switch up and do like D&D or something. And we were playing card games another night. So 3 nights a week, we were doing serious nerding.
We didn't do D&D much. We moved over to that for a little while.
Yeah.
Because if you remember right, I was to a point, because I'd played D&D before, but I loved Shadowrun so much, I didn't want to not play Shadowrun. And everybody had ruled against me, and they decided they wanted to play D&D.
Let's do a D&D session for 6 months and see how that goes.
Well, and that's when Keith was going to run it.
Yeah.
And if you remember right, he figured out a way to adapt Primus
that's right.
to D&D.
Primus was in D&D because you could play
because that's the character I wanted to play. I didn't want to play anything else.
Yeah.
And so we made a troll character in D&D for exactly that. Because I couldn't get enough of Shadowrun.
Yeah.
It was my escape out of every week. I could be Primus and leave my life.
Yes.
Leave my life behind. Leave all my cares away for that Sunday. And I could do nothing but be Primus.
Yes.
And that's where... that's how I got to know that character so well.
Yeah. I
had the whole backstory. I knew where he came from. I knew how he made it to Shadowrunning. And, I've known everything past that. Mm-hmm. It was an escape from reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And a good time. A really good time. And we became really, that's how we became really close.
Oh, yeah.
Was because of this. Because we were, we just kind of knew each other.
Right.
But it was doing this that brought us together. And we can still pick up and play these characters,
which we do.
Yeah. Yeah. We were just playing a run not too long ago.
Yeah. We got to the end of a quote unquote of a campaign. It was a campaign. And during COVID, we started doing it online. We did it over Zoom.
Yeah.
Using a program called Roll20 where I could build maps, and we brought those characters in.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. So with other games, you generally play with a polyhedral dice. Shadowrun uses 6-sided dice.
Or as people call it, dungeon dice.
Dungeon dice, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, they use 6-sided dice, and that's it. You could go get them out of your Monopoly set and play with those, but you're going to need a lot of them. Currently, my Shadowrun dice set, and I needed to get another set, I think I've got 24 6-sided dice in that set ready to use. It's not enough.
Sometimes.
It's not enough. And everybody switched from the regular size dice to these real little bitty ones so they could get more. And I've seen okay, so Keith plays a type of character called a rigger. I've played a rigger too. It's a lot of fun to play. Basically, they plug themselves into their vehicles and they run drones. So they're like air support almost. So but when they play, you have like 3 or 4 different pools of dice that you have to be using and pulling from. I've seen that dude roll, 15, 20 dice at once.
Oh yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. And a rigger is, so when people hear about a rigger, they almost kind of think about the Matrix, and that's not what a rigger is.
No.
A decker is like the Matrix.
Yes.
They actually jack in and go into the Matrix, which is Shadowrun's version of the internet.
Yes.
It's what all is out there.
Yes. We never really used deckers because they have to have basically a separate run because nobody else can be involved in it.
Right.
So we always just hired them.
Right. And everything happens so fast in the decker world. What happens is the decker goes in, they do their little thing. It's only a few seconds to the outside world, but they do have to have a separate run all by themselves.
Yes.
So we always hired deckers.
Yeah, we never actually had a decker player because we didn't want to stop the game down for basically one person.
Right. Everybody wanted to play.
Yeah. Because you would have to. And then what's really sad is that the decker character can't really do anything else.
Right.
Because they've had to spend all of their resources being a decker, and they can't, 9 times out of 10, they can't even shoot a gun.
Right.
Which is really necessary to do in Shadowrun. If you can't use a weapon, you might as well walk around with a giant target on your back. Just please kill me.
Well, and that's why a decker is not going to be in your dungeon party.
No.
In your dungeon crawl party. The decker is going to be behind somewhere. They're going to be in a vehicle left behind. Yeah. Or they can be at their house.
Yeah.
And, and you contact them. So the decker, that's really, really why we never put deckers as characters.
No.
Because it's a whole separate game for them. And it kind of takes away from the fun that everybody else has.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, and then the decker can't participate when everybody else is playing. So that would be terrible. That's why we never use them. But it is part of the Shadowrun system. And I've known people who have, they say it's really rewarding. I'm like, well, what do you do when the deckers doing their thing? It's like, oh, we just kind of hang out and whatever. But I think this group, they had a big group. They had like 15 or 20 people, and 3 or 4 of them were deckers. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That sounds like that would be chaos. But, maybe not.
I don't know. It starts getting chaos for me over 6.
Yeah. Yeah. You need basically a GM or a DM and 6 player characters is about all I can really handle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because otherwise it starts getting nuts. And we've played some games with 10, 12 people in the room.
I hated it.
Yeah. It's not as much fun because you can't get anything accomplished.
No, not at all. It's too many people trying to do too many different things. And you've got to spend so much time with certain people and everybody else has to just sit back and go, it's the same thing as having a decker.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to have to sit back and do their own thing while the GM focuses over here. And it's just,
and your clamor's like, hey, I need to do this thing. Can we please get this thing so I can,
Well, and we've seen it in one of the games we played just recently that ended up on a spaceship. Your group ended up going to different floors. And we're playing this online, and I'd have to go, okay, here's what you're doing here, and everybody else had to wait.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to go, okay, I'm going to put you on hold, then we swap over here. Now I've got to go to this floor, and I've got to do this. So it's the same thing as having way too many people playing. Is you have to stop.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Excuse me. You have to stop and take care of this group, and then you'll come over here, and then you'll come over here. So a smaller group to me is preferable.
Oh yeah. Well, and you can do that too. It's like, because especially with the Shadowrun, when you're running the shadows, you need to be in basically 2 places at once. So you'll split your group up, and one half of them will be, I don't know, working on the guards, and the other half will be going in to steal the thing. If you got 6 people, you can do that. It's like, okay, we're going to deal with you guys for about 20 minutes. Now we're going to deal with you guys for 20 minutes. And it's not that bad. And honestly, to play Shadowrun successfully, you kind of want to do that.
Right.
You want to, you want someone to run through the door with a garbage truck loaded full of explosives while everybody else goes in the back door and steals whatever you're
One
supposed
of
to be stealing.
Darkwind's staples.
Yep.
A garbage truck loaded with explosives.
Steal a garbage truck, load it full of explosives, drive it towards the front door.
Put a brick on the accelerator.
Yep, jump out. And,
Well, it always causes chaos, and it always takes the attention away from the other entrance.
Yeah, the other entrance where everybody's going in the back to steal the thing we've been hired to steal.
Right. And I like how everything evolved over the years as our group played together, and really got into the characters. How different things would develop. There were recurring characters, NPCs, that would come back.
Yes.
That became basically guest stars in our little story for, Mr. Castellano, the arms dealer.
Yes.
I'm sorry. No.
Hector Ramirez,
Mr. Violantis.
Gonzalez, Violantis the third.
He was
you mean Jose.
He was the arms dealer, and he was a recurring character. My shaman contact, Shelby, was a recurring character
Shelby
that kept coming back. Mick, Khan's, Keith's character's Khan, his mechanic, and you had these recurring characters that just kind of found their way into our scenarios, either as a story accelerator or somebody to help us do something that we needed.
Yes.
Maybe we need to purchase some equipment.
Yeah.
Maybe we
need some help covering something up that we weren't supposed to do.
Absolutely. And we met Biolantis because of South America.
Yeah.
Because you let loose a biologic.
I did not let loose anything.
Bullshit.
The bad guys let loose a biologic. All I did was destroy it when it started to go off.
And because of Darkwind, South America went into a barren wasteland.
That is
except
not true.
for one tree which still stood, and to this day has pictures of our group with a note that says that South America is under martial law till these people are found and hung from this tree.
Yes, not wanted dead or alive. It's wanted dead.
Dead. But yeah, that's when we escaped on the barge. And we ended up losing the barge because the biologic got on it. We got taken off. And then Primus and Khan did a side run on a week that nobody else was available, that ended up getting Primus a jeweled axe from a hell region that he ended up trading in return for Biolantis getting Primus the barge.
Yes.
Because Primus fell in love with that fishing barge.
Yes, Primus ended up living on the fishing barge.
It became his home.
Yes, and he lived in Seattle Harbor. Oh, yeah. That was the other thing we were talking about, Seattle. So, yes, everything basic. Okay, you can run Shadowrun in London or Denver or any place else, but most people run it in Seattle because it's an extraterritorial city or a free city. It's easier to run Shadowruns there. That's why they picked it.
Well, yeah, and the reason that most people run their campaigns or their one shots out of Seattle is there's more source books about Seattle than anywhere else.
Yeah.
You're going to have a onesie and a twosie about the California Free State, about the Tier, about Germany, about Australia, but Seattle has tons of source books about it.
Yeah, everybody basically bases out of Seattle,
right? At least for the game, everybody bases out of Seattle, right?
And you've got those other source books where you can go and play. I think we tried to play out of Denver, and we were running into problems because we had the one source book, but after that there was nothing. Seattle, most of that stuff it's their source book,
right? Well, we had to make up stuff outside. I mean, because we I don't remember. I think I was GMing when I sent your group to Australia.
Yes, we did have to go to Australia.
I made that up all myself. I didn't have any source books on Australia.
I think they
pulled
eventually
out my
did
ass.
come out with a source book for Australia
Well,
with some magic and stuff.
Yeah, yes, what was known was Australia was home to wild magic. They would have these wild mana storms that would cause unexpected things to happen on the magical plane or to people that threw magic. And so that was basically...
That is really bad for your magic slinger.
Right.
Really, really bad for your magic slinger.
But that's all the info I had on Australia, and from there, I pulled it out of my ass.
Nice.
And figured it out from there. And that's one of the things that I would say is a forte of mine, and Don too, was the fact that he and I have always been able to pull these very elaborate scenarios out of our head.
Out of thin air, yeah.
We
very rarely use the thing. We talked about modules.
Yeah.
I think we used a couple, early on in the Shadowrun when we were gaming.
Don used the basis of them and spawned off from there because I believe the Blood Rose gang came from the Harlequin.
Yeah, the Harlequin.
The Harlequin module of Shadowrun.
Yeah, I remember that. We dealt with him a lot. We dealt with Harlequin a lot.
Yeah.
But basically, he read the module and picked stuff from it. And instead of it being, one campaign, which is what those modules are designed to do, is to be one campaign for a group, he was able to pull multiple campaigns from this module.
Right.
And the dance with the dragon, what we had to do with the feathered serpent. Living in
I don't remember the name. I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember.
Bottle Demon. Bottle Demon was what that was called. And he used that.
Yes.
We pulled up episodes and campaigns for that for probably 6 months. We were going on the Bottle Demon thing.
And I would make campaigns that were based off TV, movies.
Yes.
That last campaign we did, I took the whole idea from The Librarians.
The Librarians, yeah.
There was a mixture of Fifth Element, because remember there were 5 orbs total.
Lulu Dallas multipass.
Yes, I took it from Fifth Element. Took it from The Librarians for the end, and I also pulled some from The Golden Child. All in that campaign.
Which I just went back and watched because we were doing it, and I was like, oh, I don't know what it was. The Golden Child just didn't hook me.
Oh, I love The Golden Child. I mean, so the Golden Child, have you seen The Golden Child, William? So you need to watch it. Since you said you watched Beverly Hills Cop for the first time, The Golden Child was Eddie Murphy's follow-up to Axel Foley. I think it was after Beverly Hills Cop, but before 2. And it was him trying to hold on to that magic that he got in Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
And he plays a character who's similar to Axel, but he's not a cop. He's a private investigator.
He helps find missing children.
He helps find missing children. It's very much a fantasy element that he ends up getting into, because there's a whole thing between good and evil, heaven and hell, blah, 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 blah. And, it's funny. I loved The Golden Child.
Yeah.
I loved it when it came out. I saw it in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
I loved it. And it's Eddie Murphy being Eddie Murphy.
Yeah. It has kind of a similar feel to Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Very, very similar films. But I liked Big Trouble in Little China a little more. Or Buckaroo Banzai even.
Right.
Yeah, I liked Big Trouble in Little China as my favorite of those.
But
3.
but Golden Child, go watch that.
Yeah.
I have it. I have it on DVD. I can, if you've got a DVD player, I can loan it to you.
And he's thinking, do I?
Right. That's sad that you have. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm hiccuping now. Yeah. First I was burping. Now I'm hiccuping. It's so funny that, very few people have DVD players anymore because everything's streaming. You get it offline. But yes, I have the DVD.
Yes. But I want to say it's like on Amazon or something. I think you can
I know. I know it is. You can absolutely buy it off Amazon. I don't know how much it costs.
Oh, no, I think it's free. Because I watched it not too long ago. I was like, oh, hey, I watched this for nothing. Groovy.
Yeah. I need to watch it again. That's a fair amount. But yeah, so I brought in Golden Child into that campaign, as well as Fifth Element, then the Librarians. because that's just because I know this group so well, because we've been around each other for so many years. I know the TV shows you're watching. I know the movies you've seen. I know the stories you've read. And if I can incorporate some element from something that everybody's familiar with. I was actually shocked that Keith had never seen The Librarians. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I knew Randy had.
Yeah.
Had you?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was pretty a fan from pretty much early on.
And
I even like the movies.
And I don't think Don had watched The Librarians either. I know Keith had not.
Yeah. No, Don. I think Don had seen the movies, but not the series.
Okay, and the series is.
Yeah.
I love the series.
Yeah, I actually like the series better than the movies. I kind of wish I had not watched the movies after I'd seen the series.
But I love to bring those kind of elements in because I think it's fun. And for me as a GM, the most fun I have is when I put something in the story that one of the players recognizes from a movie or TV.
Because it's generally this noise is what you hear.
Or you get, oh. And that's what's fun to me is getting those reactions from the players as we go through it. That's why I love bringing back NPC favorites because it's favorites of the players.
Yeah.
Dawn was really, really good at that.
Yes.
And I mean, that's really where I learned my GM style.
When Don GMs something, don't ever go through a drive-through. Just don't go through a drive-through with your character. He will work it out where you have to go through a drive-through. And when you do, this is the voice you're going to get.
Well, and any good GM can force the players into any situation.
That's that railroading we were talking about. You don't want to force them into it.
No, but you can't. But you have to sometimes because you've got to progress the story.
Yes,
and our group was always so good at. You've got two lanes. You've got two lanes on the highway that you're going to go to. One leads off to the left, one leads off to the right. The one off to the left has a big giant sign that says, "Go this way. Your mission is here. Here's where the big prize is. Go this way." And the right lane says, "Don't come over here. There's nothing about this story that you need. Don't even look over here. Make sure you go left because that's where you need to go." And our group goes right. Every time.
Because it's the most interesting.
And goes so far off the beaten track. As a GM, we have to bring you back. So that's where the quick thinking on your feet comes in. Because, okay, so they take that right side of the freeway and they wind up in the middle of nowhere. Well, what are you going to drop down in the middle of nowhere that's going to guide them back to the highway and back to that left lane?
Yeah, and you generally, maybe halfway through the session or a session later, everybody goes, "Oh, you know what? We should have went left there."
But
but right was so interesting.
But that's that's exactly where I mean the GM has to be able to bring people back into the story, but at the same time be adaptable enough to follow the characters when they go the wrong way, when they go the way you didn't plan, they go the direction that you have nothing written down for.
Screw it. Let's let them go roll a go-go gang group.
Right, exactly.
And so we did that a couple of times.
And so you've got to adapt.
Yeah.
We killed a bunch of go-go gangs. We also once, and this is terrible. I'm actually going to say this. This is so terrible, and somebody is going to hate me for saying this. But one time, we actually took a hobo off the streets, made him look like somebody else, and threw him to his death with the justification, "It's okay. He's poor."
Yep.
Those words actually came out of somebody's mouth.
I believe they were my mouth.
They were.
But I was playing the character of Darkwind, and in his defense, he's insane.
That's true. Hi, Thor. Oh, Thor's come up to say hi.
But no, yeah, it's horrible. But they're imaginary, so it's okay.
Hi, baby.
They're not real people, and we would never do that to someone, poor or otherwise.
Right. Sorry, Thor came up to
And
say
we got away with it too.
yeah, we got away with a lot of shit that we probably shouldn't have.
No.
I mean, even though Seattle was a free city, we walked around strapped for bear a little too much and got away with it.
Okay, so I'll break this down to you. How Seattle is set up, basically they took a map of modern Seattle and they in the different little towns and stuff around it. So it's like DFW, a bunch of little towns that make up a big area. Different parts of them were like Puyallup, which we used to call the Pileups. The
Pileup.
Puyallup is a like a little working class town in and around Seattle, and Puyallup got destroyed during a volcanic explosion. So now it is what's called the Barrens. So in the Barrens,
well, it's a Barrens.
Yeah, a Barrens.
The Barrens is different.
Is Redmond.
It's Redmond.
Redmond Barrens. So yeah, how Puyallup works is outside of the Barrens, the police don't work for the municipality. They work for a corporation like in RoboCop. And the name of the corporation that runs them is called Lone Star. So we just call the cops Lone Star. Lone Star does not go into Redmond. Lone Star does not go into the Pileups. Ever. Well, okay.
I was going to say in Puyallup, I think they will. In Redmond, ever.
Yeah. They will chase you into it, but if you go deep enough into the Barrens, they will turn around and stop.
Right. Because Redmond Barrens is where people go to never come out again.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous. It's very rough. Primus grew up in the Redmond Barrens.
Redmond Barrens.
When I started gaming that character, his home was a dilapidated old building that he just squatted in. He lived there because he could. He could never leave anything behind because if he did, it would be stolen by the time he came back. And so he would often have to change those locations. And it was when he got the barge, that he had a home. He had a secure home.
Yeah.
But the Redmond Barrens is a place where people go to get killed.
Yeah.
To go get rolled, to go get, the shit kicked out of them and spit out.
Yeah. At the very edge of these Barrens or these bars, that's where Shadowrunners meet their contacts. Mr. Johnson. But yeah, there are parts of Shadowrun where the police don't go. There are parts of the Shadowrun where the police have a very heavy presence. You don't go jacking around in downtown Seattle near the arcologies.
Oh no, absolutely not. That's the rich area.
Yeah.
And
the corporations have arcologies, basically city-sized buildings where their employees,
they're self-contained.
Yeah, their employees live, eat, work, play, everything.
Right. Grocery stores there. All the shops are there. All their living
they never
is there.
leave
They work there. You never leave the arcology because it's safe.
Yeah.
And they have their own corporate security. So Lone Star is the primary one that everybody talks about. They, if the cops are coming, you're generally talking about Lone Star. But they've also got Knight Errant.
Knight Errant security.
That I think that's Renraku's. Is that Renraku's?
Yeah, Knight Errant is Renraku.
You've got Knight Errant.
The Red Samurai.
The Red Sam. So you've got all these different groups. But if somebody says the cops are coming, it's going to be Lone Star. They mean Lone Star because that's your primary police force.
We can handle Lone Star. We have a hard time with Red Samurai.
And Knight Errant.
And Knight Errant. They're bad. They're scary. Shadowrunners don't want to tangle with them because they'll just kill them. They're not there to arrest Shadowrunners. They're there to kill Shadowrunners.
And then, of course, you have Dockwagon. The ambulance service, and depending on the level of Dockwagon you have, is how fast they will get help to you.
Yeah.
I'll have to put a picture of my Dockwagon card for this episode since I have one.
Yes. The Dockwagon. Yeah. So the Dockwagon. You buy a subscription with the ambulance company. They're also a hospital. And depending on your level of subscription, they will come and get you. If you have a high enough level, I want to say it's platinum, they will come and get you in a combat situation.
In a war zone.
And will pull you out and treat you.
They will send in troops to pull you out of a war zone.
Yeah, when we got pretty well off, we made some money. We got a short-term dock wagon contracts, and we had them get us out, extract us. Like, it was the plan. We're going to go in there, and then we're each going to shoot ourselves in the foot, and dock wagon's going to come save us.
Well, and that's kind of where we got to at one point is our group. So here's another one. Please, I want everybody to understand before I say this, that we coined this group's name long before 9/11. Like I said, it was in the 90s, the early 90s.
Yes.
And we named this group
Ground Zero.
Yeah, and so 9/11 happened, and we had Ground Zero.
We had a computer company, and we had to basically shutter its doors because the computer company was also called Ground Zero Computers.
Yeah, we called it. So please understand, everybody who's listening, we had the name for the group Ground Zero. We've kept it, and just because it's back the nostalgia from that, but we had it long ago. So that was one of the problems with the group Ground Zero in the later years.
Yeah.
Is we had made so much money.
Yeah.
And we're so Billy Badass tough.
Yeah.
It was hard to create campaigns that would challenge us.
Yeah.
Because we could mow through most shit.
Yeah. Well, I have downgraded the character of Darkwind probably a dozen times just so I can play him.
Exactly. Because we want to keep playing those characters.
Yeah.
But we can't play them at the power level they were.
No.
Because it's just too...
It's too bad. Yeah. They're way too hard. Anything that you throw at them is going to kill some other beginning or mid-level characters.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're playing with some beginner or mid-level characters, those people aren't going to have any fun because they're not going to be able to go, for one.
Well, and Primus, to a point, with his armor and the toughness level he was at, you couldn't hit him with anything shy of a heavy rocket to do him damage. It had to be a heavy machine gun throwing a shit ton of steel or lead his way, or a rocket or a missile, because things would just bounce off of him. He was just that Billy Badass tough, and I could walk Primus head first into a war zone.
Mm-hmm. He wore military grade
and
armor.
Blaze a path. I had better than military grade. It was higher than, I think. Maybe it was military grade, but it was the one that had Primus worn a helmet. It would have been completely self-contained, self-sealed, had its own air supply, but Primus couldn't wear the helmet.
Because he had horns. He was a troll.
Well, and that was the thing. So for Don to throw anything at Primus, really, you had to go for the head.
Yeah. Which is how he got his horn broke.
Like Thanos.
You had to go for the head.
You had to go for the head, which is a called shot, which is an aim shot, which is a harder shot.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's go off on that. Okay, so in the old dice rolls, what it was you had a target number that you need to hit. Now, a regular target number is 3, so you had a 6-sided dice. So one or 2 wouldn't achieve the goal you needed, but 3, 4, 5, or 6 would.
No, your standard target number is 4. Isn't it? Isn't it 4?
Well, okay, not necessarily shooting. I mean standard, because everybody is a standard of 3. 3 is the.
I thought 4 was.
Okay, well, so
you could be right. I mean,
with a gunshot, it's 4. So if I wanted to shoot you, my target number was a 4. Now I would have modifiers or bonuses depending on what I had on my gun or what I had in my head. So 1, 2, or 3 wouldn't hit you, but 4, 5, and 6 would. That's right. You're right. Because it's 5?
It's 5.
Oh, that's the new. That's the new.
So no, this is. Oh, okay. Here's Shadowrun 2. It was 4.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a target to shoot the guy across the street. Right. My target number is 4. Well, I have a skill level of 3. So I can take 3 dice and roll them and see if I can get a 4. And the more 4s I got, 4 or better, the more successes I got.
Yeah.
When he's talking about the new dice system,
yeah,
it's only 5 or 6s or hits.
Yeah.
And you don't roll as many. But if I've got modifiers that bring that target number down to a 2, and I can roll 6 dice at once, not only can I shoot that guy across the street, I can obliterate him.
Right. Yeah, it's target number 4 because remember with the smart link, it's you get a -2.
Yeah.
So that's
Right.
it's.
But you're right.
4.
It's 1, 2, and 3 is a failure. 4, 5, and 6 is a hit.
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
Right. So your standard, you've got a 50-50 shot at doing most standard things. Then you're going to have modifiers depending on what you're trying to do.
And your skill level, you have more opportunities to make it. So you have, if I've got 3 dice as opposed to just 1, because if you don't have the skill, you can still take the shot.
Right.
You're just less likely to achieve it. And that's how Shadowrun works, is with the dice. And what, he's talking about here, we would have skill levels of 7 or 8, which is world class.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
8 plus we had modifiers on our weapons because we'd spent the money to get them that way. Modifiers on our cyberware in our heads that allowed us to see things faster than most people. And modifiers in the muscles in our arms to make our arms that much faster so we could take more than one shot at a time. After a while, it gets to be too much and you want to start with a newer character.
Right. Exactly. Because, Primus with his Vindicator minigun, you realize that's something that's firing off a shit ton of bullets. You know what I'm talking about with a minigun.
Rotating barrels.
And my target numbers are 2.
Yeah.
So I have to roll a 2 or better.
Yeah. And
on
he's
a
rolling
6-sided dice.
Yeah, and he's rolling 6 or 7 dice at a time.
Oh gosh, no. If I'm rolling the Vindicator, I had that thing up to 9.
Oh, there you go. 9 dice.
And then when you do the damage code goes up based on your number of success. The damage level and then the number damage would go up.
Ashley could tell you exactly what that number was right now.
She can figure it
without batting an eye. She could just tell you. But if he's rolling 9 dice for every success he gets,
every 2 successes,
the damage goes up.
Right.
And
the damage level goes up to deadly, and then from there the power goes up for every 2 successes.
Yes. So he would again not just hit that person; he would turn them into a fine red mist.
Right. But then people hitting back at me, the rules were the base damage without modifiers, without the successes. The base damage had to exceed the damage absorption level
of your
armor. The armor.
Mm-hmm.
And if it couldn't, it didn't matter how many successes they got. That shit just bounced off me.
Yeah.
Primus. So that's when it just became very hard. He was fast. Mm-hmm. Unbelievably fast for as big as he was.
Yeah. Shadowrun takes that into account. The bigger you are, the slower you're going to move.
Right. But not him.
Yeah. Well, except for dwarves, because they have short legs. They don't run really fast.
Primus was fast. He was strong. He was tough. He just wasn't smart. He knew how to throw lead.
Lead throwing.
Yeah. And then his strength, because his strength was, I'm searching here. I believe his strength was 14, his body was 15, or his strength was 15, his body was 14. So I could do almost as much damage with punching something as I could with a standard pistol.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So you think that in the world of Shadowrun, normal human settings are 3. So that's a normal everyday person.
They're attribute base.
Yeah,
a normal person is a 3.
Yeah,
in any different attribute,
that's vanilla.
Which is
anybody
body, quickness, strength, intelligence, wisdom, charisma,
and then there's a magic rate.
Magic.
Yeah, but we don't. But
right. But those are your attributes.
Yeah.
And a base of 3 is Joe Schmo.
Joe Schmo on the street. So when you got someone who has a strength of 13
or 14 or 15.
Yeah, 14 or 15. World class is 6. So yeah, you're talking about someone who basically live like a superhero. not picking up buildings, but close to it.
Well, Primus could pick up cars,
Yeah.
and throw them. It's and it's just like I said. That's where we got to it. It's a point where they themselves as characters were overpowered.
We couldn't play them anymore.
Right.
Not without.
But we liked playing those characters, so we would have to modify them and bring them down.
Yeah.
We'd have to bring them down some levels if we wanted to keep playing with them.
Yep.
You know.
I played a few more that I really enjoyed. I played one called Ack Ack. He was a lot of fun. He was a little troll. Mm-hmm. I played one called Joker, and he was obsessed. He was an ex-circus clown, and he was obsessed with killing go-go gangers because they destroyed his circus, his family circus. So he would stop in the middle of a fight and go kill just to go kill a ganger.
Well, and I played the magic user, Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan.
Which he took that name very specifically because he thought he was a super spy.
Yeah.
That's how he envisioned himself. He wore tuxedos everywhere he went because he thought he was like James Bond.
He had a battle dress uniform that was a tuxedo.
It was a tuxedo. And he kept spares in his car, which when you started up the car, the James Bond theme started. He thought himself a spy. And so he named himself Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan was fun.
He thought himself like James Bond. And he was a magic user. And I enjoyed that character a lot.
Oh my God. He had that geese too, where he had to say what he was throwing.
Yes.
And then okay. So what a geese is if a magic user really screws up.
GEAS.
Yes. I don't even know if I'm saying that right.
Sorry. I think it's GS.
GS. Yeah. So if they really screwed up or had a problem, they would have one of these things, and it would be like something they have to do their spell. His thing was anytime he threw a combat spell, he would have to announce the spell he was throwing. The problem was he had to roll it on a table. He didn't know. So out of these 6 spells, he'd go, Manibolt, and then he would throw like a microwave burst or something.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a completely random. His magic was completely wild.
Yeah,
and you never knew what it was going to do. That was a fun character to play.
That was fun to play with. You never knew. It's fireball.
You never knew, and his character was the face. He was the one who could, because he just looked. He could just basically look like just about anybody and just walk into anywhere and be the guy that you want to talk to. You falling asleep over there? You look like you're falling asleep.
I think we're boring him
again. Yeah.
Yeah. This is too much RPG talk.
But yeah, so I had Jack. I think Primus and Jack may have been the only 2 characters I played. I was thinking there was a third one, but
what about so when we went into the Shadowrun 2099, you played another character. Because that was the one where I played the vampire. We played it like 50 years ahead of Shadowrun.
Don't remember. I remember what you're talking about, but I don't remember the character I played there.
He lived in his family lived in Miami because I know we had to leave. We had to go.
Yeah. I thought that was Jack.
Was that Jack?
I think that was Jack.
Okay, maybe that was Jack.
So, but anyway, so we talked about how the characters got so powerful and we had to do other things. Then you decided to take a role as GM.
Yes, I decided to take a GM role. So I built this really. I made this role kind of easy, and I centered it off of a Doctor Who episode called "The Talons of Wing Chiang," where so I had this thing that I was making called a Draco Homunculus.
He spent the better part of a weekend, designing this monster, specifically to make our lives hell.
Yeah, it wasn't bad enough to kill them. But they were going to have to work together to beat it.
It was going to be hard. It was going to be a long.
The rest
fight.
of the run was a super cake run, right? It was just to get them to this point, right? So they get into this room with the Draco Homunculus, and he's in a sarcophagus
that starts to open,
and a hand comes up and holds on to the edge of this thing, and so this thing's waking up. I'm like one turn away from this thing just causing them hell. I mean, like I had this thing plugged in into all of their weaknesses. And Don is playing a character. He's holding a bag of grenades. And
a satchel.
Yeah, a satchel full of grenades. He takes the satchel and throws it into this stone sarcophagus that this thing is in, and then unloads his grenade gun.
And critical hit.
Yeah, and critical hit
Yeah.
on both actions. So he basically took the satchel and put it on the thing's chest, even though he couldn't see it. And then every single one of the shots he emptied ended up in the same place where the satchel was. Stone sarcophagus, so the explosion is basically contained inside the sarcophagus and blows straight out.
And destroys the Draco homunculus.
At one point, there were so many hit points that I was tallying up. It was like, oh, God.
He was so mad. He was so mad.
I did not GM again for like 5 years. Because the whole point was they were going to have fun with this Draco homunculus. And the payoff was, and I didn't let them get to it because they ended up turning them in. Yeah. If they'd have kept the Draco homunculus's bones, like its skull and stuff, it would have given them they could have got special abilities and stuff out of it. And made a lot of money.
He was so mad.
Yeah. So I was like, just roll. Yeah, it was like, okay, so I made it. Yeah, no, you need to roll for blowback. No, it was all in the stone sarcophagus. I was like, I don't care. You need to roll. And your target number is 16. And he rolled like a 27. So he survived. They had to drag him out, but he survived. I was so mad at Don.
He didn't GM for years.
Years.
Oh, God.
God, it was such a great idea I had. And it took me months to kind of come up with this. I was like, you know what? I'm not very good at GMing. I really am not. I've done it a few times.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's like I said earlier, you have to be able to really think up things on the fly.
Yeah.
And modify what you're doing and be willing to understand the detours that the players are going to take and know how to adapt yourself to bring them back to where you've built your dungeon.
Yeah. Because they will go totally off to the left.
Oh, sure.
And there are a few times that it's like, man, I worked really hard on that. And I'm like, really? Really? You worked really hard on that? How was that? Was that fun? Did it suck when I killed your monster? Good. So I eventually GM'd again and brought the Draco homunculus back and actually got somebody to run up against it. And I didn't power it up as much because they were more beginning characters. Cree, Johnny, and Rachel ran up against it. And it was a lot of fun. So
that's funny.
I finally got to play that Draco homunculus game.
Well, we had so many years of fun with Shadowrun. Because like I said, we did so much with these characters and it was every single Sunday night for years.
Yeah.
We started at Don's apartment, 2 of his apartments, and then Keith's apartment. We had a player for a while who has passed, who spent a lot of time at Cook Children's because she had cystic fibrosis. And we would game up in her hospital room on a Sunday night.
We wrote something on the wall that was probably still there. Well, okay, so we had...
Oh, I'm sure it's clean by now.
So we had a whiteboard that we were working on, and it was like, no, that guy's not there. He's like, wait, you know what? And it was a dry erase marker, so we figured we'd just be able to wipe it off. And he had to go about 4 or 5 feet up above the board. It's like, that guy is like right up here, and he just put like a little H for here.
On the wall.
Yeah, on the wall. But it's dry erase, figure it was fine. And then we couldn't get it to come off.
No, we couldn't get it to come off. But yeah, every Sunday for years and years and years at various apartments, various houses.
We would take like a month break during the holidays just because.
Sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, then we would get right back to it every week.
Right. A lot of fun, a lot of good times over the years. And that group is my all-time favorite group because just the friendships that formed out of it, the fun times we had, it was good times.
Yeah.
It was good times. It's, I don't know.
Yeah. So if that's not a ringing endorsement for playing Shadowrun, I don't know what is. Now, with the 4th, 5th, and 6th episodes, they have changed the dice rules, like we said.
Editions, not episodes.
Episodes. I got episodes in the brain. Sorry. You still use the 6-sided dice, but you don't use as many. You can play those. They're fine. The universe is still the same. They haven't really changed it much. But you can still find first, second, and third edition stuff in used bookstores.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's usually cheaper, and you could play for hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, go buy yourself a couple of cubes of 6-sided dice and go to town, because you could play this thing for years. There's so much more playability to it. And I also want to give a shout out to SCRG. I believe that's the website. We have figured out how to make it work on everything. It was originally written on XP, but it's a character generator device.
Generator. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can generate your characters and print them off instead of writing them down with pen and paper. You definitely want to give that a shot.
Yeah.
But that is basically it for Shadowrun, I think. I think we've talked this one to death.
That's great. Well, I mean, it's fun because we played it for so many years.
Yeah.
And like you said, Shadowrun really forged some very deep friendships.
Yes. Definitely.
You guys are all my family.
Yes.
And it all came out of Shadowrun.
Yes.
Keith and I knew each other for years.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to Don, and Don introduced us to you. And then through Don, we met Randy.
Yeah.
And, it's just some very deep seated bonds that trace.
Don Perry needs to GM a game again. I'm going to say it out loud. Don Perry needs to GM a game again. He hasn't done it in a while.
I want Keith Chenoweth to do Paranoia.
Keith Chenoweth, you need to do Paranoia.
We've been begging for that one for a while.
Oh, yeah. We played a couple of times, didn't we? Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
But I've asked him to do it again. So maybe one of these times we can. But thanks for that that trip down memory lane with Shadowrun. It's always fun.
Yes.
A lot of things that we say to each other came out of that game, and it's stuff from gaming sessions. And other people, I'm sure, look at us and go, "What the hell are they talking about?" So it was
because there are times when I feel like a Draco homunculus. That means I'm not feeling very well.
So thanks for that trip down memory lane.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I guess we'll go on to the murdery side.
Murder.
Okay, so for my piece of it, I'm going to cover the disappearance of Susan Powell.
Okay.
This was actually national news. Another one where I vaguely remember hearing about it, but I got my information from abcnews.go.com, king5.com news site, True Crimes blog at medium.com, and Susan Powell and ID Murder Mystery on Amazon Prime. I was laughing as I kind of peeked over at my notes. It's funny that we've done this a couple of times now where your story matches up with something I'm doing, and there's something in there, and it's almost like we're running the same brain.
Oh, nice.
And you'll see here, because we're going to start off with Joshua Powell. He was born on January 20th, 1976 to Stephen and Terica Powell in Puyallup, Washington.
And in the pileups.
So I forgot that was there that you did Shadowrun. So
oh, wow. He's from the pileups.
Stephen and Terica had a very dysfunctional marriage, in large part because he and Stephen and Terica belonged to the LDS Church.
Yes.
And Stephen was very disenfranchised by it. He wasn't. He was just not happy with the church anymore. They filed for divorce in 1992, and Terica claimed that Stephen shared porn with Joshua and his two brothers. He also didn't enforce limits on certain behaviors. So she just couldn't take it. Terica did say that Stephen was a harsh disciplinarian who pointedly attacked Joshua. She also claimed that Stephen verbally abused Joshua on a daily basis, and at times Stephen was physically abusive. The divorce documents alleged mental unfitness, porn, polygamy, and witchcraft. And the divorce was long and harsh that lasted several years.
Wow.
So
okay, yeah. Again, side note there, dear listeners, if you don't want to make murderers, don't beat your kids.
Exactly. You know, this is one where I think we can point right to.
Yeah. There's the problem.
Point to the cause.
Yes, this is where they lost the game.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, exactly. Terica's sister said that the older Powell boys had a very distorted image of their own questionable right to do anything they darn well please, combined with a very deep contempt towards women in general and any authority at all.
Oh, no.
Yeah. As a teen, Josh allegedly killed his sister's gerbils and threatened his mother with a butcher knife when she asked him to do the dishes.
Wow.
And then he once even attempted to, bless you, even once attempted suicide.
Okay.
So he led a very troubled childhood. Josh, along with his three brothers, ended up in Stephen's custody while his sister went with his mother. But then eventually his sister would end up going with Stephen as well.
Okay.
So they all lived with their father. They lived there with Stephen for a year before returning to their mother. Stephen became even more disillusioned from the LDS Church and began proclaiming he had a right to take another wife and had his sights set on an already married woman. And he wrote songs about her and journaled his sexual fantasies involving her.
Wow.
He wrote some very creepy things. I don't I don't remember. I don't think I wrote down another song that he wrote that I saw in the video, but it's just creepy. Just creepy. Josh became withdrawn, and he was unwilling to interact or even make eye contact for a year or two, according to his mother. She added that Josh seemed to have a soul-deep hurt as a result of his father's erratic and explosive behavior. Do you need to pause there for a minute? Okay, go ahead. There you go.
Let me get some water.
Okay. You got that point? Yeah. All right.
Sorry.
No, please.
I could not stop.
That's fine. That's why I stopped. What you sing for us, William?
Back on the street. I put notes on the edit points. And I put 8320 Ziggy's Corona cough.
Yeah, I got a little ice water. Thank you.
Yeah. We still rolling?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can roll. Okay.
All right. So I had to take a real quick pause for your coughing fit.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. So I wanted to back up again and say that Josh's mother said he seemed to have a soul deep hurt as the result of his father's erratic and explosive behavior. In 1998, Josh met and began dating Catherine Terry Everett, whom he met at a local LDS while he was attending the University of Washington. They moved in together, and Joshua immediately became very possessive towards Catherine.
Okay.
She later said that he would have restrictions and limitations on what I could and couldn't do when it came to my family. If I was going to visit them, he had to come too. I could never go by myself.
Huh.
She eventually decided to visit a friend in Utah without him and decided to not return to Seattle, breaking up with him on the phone.
Right on.
So I left this in just to kind of show pattern of behavior because Catherine leaves the story from here. In November of 2000, Josh met Susan Cox, who was from an LDS course he attended. They began dating and married on April 6, 2001. For a very brief time, they lived with Josh's father, Stephen, in South Hill, Washington, before moving to West Valley City in Utah in 2003. Part of the reason for this move is Susan was very uncomfortable around her father-in-law.
Stephen.
Yeah, and we're going to come back to that.
Okay.
But I just wanted to add it in here that she pretty much demanded, we got to get out of this house, and wanted to move away. The Powells would go on to have two sons, Charles in 2015 and Braden in 2007. And then things kind of started to go south for Susan and Josh. Susan had hoped that their two children would kind of be the glue that kept them together.
Yeah. Never a good idea.
No, and this is where you kind of get the idea of really kind of how much of a dick this guy is. So when Susan went into labor with Charlie, Josh refused to take her to the hospital.
What?
Yeah, and her parents, Chuck and Terry, drove her because Josh insisted he had to back up his hard drive before going to the hospital. Yeah, let that sink in a minute. He actually did go to the hospital after he was done, and he arrived at the hospital 2 hours later and then just sat down, started working on his laptop. Wasn't even paying attention to, and they had this on video. They had this on video.
What was he? Was he sending out emails about the birth? No, he was just working.
Just working on his laptop. Yeah. Susan's dad, Chuck, he had to tell Josh to put away the laptop to be with his wife.
Yeah.
Josh also ruled the household with an iron fist. He required Susan to ask his permission to drive the car, and he held onto their money real tight. So this is controlling, and this is a
pattern of abuser.
It is a pattern of abuser, and you see this in many abuse cases where the abuser controlled everything, including the money.
Because if they get enough money, they can leave.
Right.
Yeah.
Another friend did share this quote. He would give Susan an amount of money, and on a grocery shopping trip, he also had a spreadsheet that she was to look at while she looked at the ads to find the cheapest price of everything. When she went shopping, she came home and she had to enter every single item into that spreadsheet. And if she spent more than a couple cents on a can of beans, Josh would really yell at her and get very angry.
So he's just looking for a reason to yell at somebody.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Sounds like instead of getting married, this guy probably should have went and got a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
He
was so controlling that he forced Susan to knit their socks instead of buying new ones. And he even controlled how much the children ate. It's said that Susan had to resort to calling friends to ask if she could sneak hot dogs from them because Charlie and Braden were so hungry. Yes.
No, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm with you. I'm following the story. Logistically, I'm keeping up.
Another friend once stated that Josh once said about Charlie, one of the kids, he gets one meal a day at daycare. That's all he needs. You're not wasting my food on him just because he's going to poop it out. That one just drove me insane. It's like, did Josh not poop too? I mean, I didn't understand that.
He only gets one meal a day at daycare, which is probably what?
Who knows?
Yeah.
A bologna sandwich and an apple. Who knows?
A cheese stick.
Yeah. But that's what he said.
Okay.
Eventually, he stopped giving Susan money altogether. Susan was not allowed to have a cell phone, and Josh made her ride a bicycle to work. She was instructed to run every other day so that they could save money on showers, yet Josh was gambling at local casinos. Yeah. Josh struggled holding on to a job, and they had to declare bankruptcy in 2008, which further made the relationship bad.
I have heard that, and I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, but I have heard that sociopathic people, I don't even know if I'm using the right term, often have a hard time holding down a position. That's not uncommon for those people because they're so bad with regular people.
Well, they don't function well in society.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole thing. They don't function well with people.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I think you're absolutely right. Again, the bankruptcy, it started making the relationship worse.
Yeah.
Josh did have a reputation for being a self-centered know-it-all who had to dominate every conversation. One of the neighbors was quoted as saying, "We all love Susan and we tolerate Josh because he comes along. He's only ever concerned about himself," which made things sometimes a little difficult.
Yeah, I'll bet.
The relationship between Susan and Josh became so dire that Susan began detailing the family's struggles in journals and videotaping their assets in case a divorce went bad. The actual video is on that Susan Powell and ID murder mystery. That's creepy as you watch the video, and she talks about what she's videotaping because she's pretty sure this is going to end in a divorce.
Right on.
So the video's on there, and it's just really creepy. On the morning of December 6th, 2009, Susan, Charles, and Braden went to church. A neighbor went to their home for a visit at 5 p.m., and that was the last time Susan was seen by someone outside of their household.
Wow.
Susan didn't show up for her job.
What year is this?
This is 2009.
Okay, so the kids were born in 2007 and 2005. Is that right?
I do believe that was correct. I have to go back and look.
Sorry.
No, please.
So the kids were like 5?
2005 and 2007.
Yeah, so 4 and 2. So the kids are still little.
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Susan didn't show up for her job on December 7th. And so the daycare started calling because the daycare is used. The kids always come to daycare.
Yeah.
And they hadn't shown up. The daycare tried calling Susan, couldn't get an answer. Tried calling Josh, couldn't get an answer. So Susan's family got a call, and they said, "Hey, the children weren't dropped off this morning. No one's been able to reach Susan or Joshua."
Yeah.
So her family called police. And they were really afraid that maybe they were victims of carbon monoxide poisoning, which very common.
Yeah.
And so the police broke into the house through a window when the family couldn't be reached. There was no one inside, but 2 box fans were blowing at a wet spot on the couch. It appeared that the couch had been cleaned, but not the carpet. And Susan's purse, wallet, and ID were all found at the house. There was also a small key that they didn't know what it went to that was found. But nobody's there. Josh returned home about 7 p.m. with the 2 boys, and police took him in for questioning. Josh said he left Susan sleeping at home shortly after midnight. This is where it gets just messed up. He said he left Susan sleeping at home shortly after midnight and taken the boys camping in Simpson Springs, Utah. December, Utah.
Simpson Springs, Utah.
After midnight.
Yeah. Why would you take
camping?
Taking a 4 and a 2-year-old? Now, this is not a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. A 4-year-old and a 2-year-old camping in December in Utah.
Yes, exactly.
At midnight.
Middle of winter.
Yeah.
After midnight. So police asked him. They said, so why did you go camping in blizzard conditions after midnight when you had to work the next morning?
The very next day.
And Josh said that he thought it was Sunday rather than Monday.
Oh, really?
I thought it was weird. Yeah, he thought it was Sunday after midnight, not Monday after midnight.
Okay, so this guy prides himself on being a genius, but I'm not seeing it.
He's just a know-it-all, yeah.
Yeah.
Also during interviews, which they did have, they showed on the video, Josh didn't really seem to be concerned about Susan being missing.
Well, yeah, because he probably knew exactly where she was.
He talked about the daycare woman having a key to his house, so he didn't understand why police had to break a window to get in.
Huh.
I did put a little note in here, just devil's advocate. I just have to throw it out there. Someone could just be in shock and holding on to whatever is keeping them sane over a missing spouse.
Okay.
Just had to throw
fair
it
enough. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I think, you know what, that would probably be me. I'll give you that. Because, in times of tragedy, as you well know, I go into autopilot and I just do things.
Sure.
It's like,
And
how are you standing up? Because I'm not thinking about it.
And that's why I put that note here.
Yeah.
I mean, do I think that Josh is a bad guy? Yeah, I really do think he's a bad guy. But I at least had to throw that part in there.
Okay. I'm with you.
Police did investigate the campsite that Josh told them about. They investigated on December 10th, but no evidence of the campsite was found.
Okay.
Police searched the Powell residence on December 9th and found traces of Susan's blood on the floor. life insurance policies on Susan for $1.5 million, and the handwritten letter from Susan expressing fear for her life. So, yeah. DNA results were released in 2013 and matched Susan, while another sample came from an unknown male contributor. So there was two sets of blood apparently.
Okay.
On December 10th.
Well, okay.
Yep.
It is possible that if they bought the house from someone else, I have blood in my own house. I'm sure there are traces of my blood all over my house.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. And,
But they said it was Susan's.
Yeah. So we know it's Susan. The unknown male contributor could be somebody who lived in the house previously, and they just never, it was still there, especially if they're looking for, microscopic bits of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I'm sorry.
On December 10th, Josh, Charlie, and Braden, along with 100 neighbors and friends, gathered at Westview Park for a candlelight vigil. Mm-hmm. They handed out flyers and prayed for Susan's safe return, and Josh shed a few tears for the camera.
Okay, well, of course. Yeah. The camera was on him.
Yeah, sorry. I can't hide the fact that I think this is a bad dude.
Yeah.
Jeff,
you ain't the only one.
Right. In 2012, police released documents showing that Josh had done some very highly suspicious actions following Susan's disappearance. He liquidated her retirement accounts.
Okay.
He canceled her regularly scheduled chiropractic appointments.
Uh-huh.
He withdrew the children from daycare.
Okay.
And he had also previously spoke to a co-worker about how to hide a body in an abandoned mine shaft in the western Utah desert. Yeah. Police interviewed Charlie, the oldest son, who did confirm that the camping trip did take place. Okay.
He transported his wife's dead body with his 2 children in the car with him. Okay. I don't know if that's what happened, but I'm telling you right now, that is twisting my noodle. Please continue.
Oh, wait.
Okay. All right.
So Charlie said that his mother did go with them camping, but she didn't return. Okay. Charlie told the investigator that they went camping at Dinosaur National Park and that his mom, dad, and little brother were with him. He said the family took flowers and crystals with them, but when it was time to come home, quote, "My mom stayed where the crystals are because it has so much pretty where the crystals grow." Right. Josh told detectives that Charlie was lying. He told the detective, and then he told the detectives that he wanted to think on this for a couple of days.
I'll bet he did.
That was on the video too, and they're like, "You want to what? You need to." I mean, it's they had so much on this. Several weeks later, Charlie told a teacher that his mother was dead. So the police did talk to Susan and Susan's employer, and they were told that Susan had a safety deposit box at her job. Police then remembered the key. And so they obtained the box, and the key did open it. Inside was the video Susan made preparing for a potential divorce. Uh-huh. There was also a note that was stapled together. On one side, this is creep factor. On one side, it said Susan's last will and testament. On the other side, it said, "Do not give to Josh. I do not trust him." The note inside read, "For family and friends of Susan, all except Josh Powell, I don't trust him. I've been having extreme marital stress for 3 or 4 years now. For mine and my children's safety, I feel the need to have a paper trail. He has threatened to skip the country and told me if we divorce, there will be lawyers. If I die, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one."
Wow.
So that's how bad the situation had gotten at home. She was seeing the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Several months after the disappearance, it was reported that the younger child, Braden...
Wait a minute. Wait.
Okay, I can go back.
He told her, point blank, in this note, if if you die,
she wrote the note.
She wrote the note.
Yeah.
So of him telling her, if you die, it ain't gonna be an accident.
No, what she wrote was, if I die, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one. That was
Okay.
her.
Okay. So he didn't actually threaten to do that to her.
No,
Okay.
no.
All right. Because I'm like, why didn't she go to the cops?
Right. And, we've talked about that before in some of these stories. But no, this was her writing that. Several months after the disappearance, it was reported that Braden drew a picture of a van with 3 people in it and said that Mommy was in the trunk. He added that Mommy and Daddy got out of the minivan and Mommy didn't come back. Talking about the camping trip. This is little Braden now. Joshua, according to police, had become increasingly uncooperative now.
I'll bet.
Investigators told the media that they had planned to question Josh again.
Uh-huh.
And on December 14th, Josh retained an attorney, and a few days later, picked up his sons and took them to Puyallup to stay with Stephen for the holidays.
Okay.
On December 24th, Josh was considered a person of interest.
Uh-huh.
And on January 6th, Josh returned with his brother Michael, packed up all their belongings, and moved to Puyallup.
Okay.
So in 2010, the website SusanPowell.org was launched. It was described as the official website of Susan Powell. And the site defended Josh as the victim of a smear campaign by Susan's family, his estranged sister Jennifer, and the LDS Church. So SusanPowell.org was launched by Stephen and Michael and Josh.
Okay.
To make Josh look like the victim in all of this. There were posts claiming that Susan's disappearance was connected to the disappearance of Stephen Coker. I think that's how you pronounce it, who was a journalist who disappeared at the same time as Susan, and that they ran off to Brazil together. Speculation is that Josh and Stephen wrote those posts.
Of course.
Right. In late 2010, Josh and Stephen claimed that Susan had abandoned her family due to mental illness and that she had left with another man, and Susan's family said there was no evidence of this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're kind of doing a smear campaign,
Yeah.
Against each other. The two families are doing a smear campaign. So police now started investigating Stephen because they found out from a family friend that Stephen had been obsessed with Susan. Now we're going to come back to when Susan said, we got to get out of here. I'm sorry. This is fucked up.
Okay.
I'm just going to say it straight out. It is.
Okay.
Stephen's computer was searched in 2010, and they found, this gives me the absolute willies, 4,500 images of Susan taken without her knowledge, including close-ups of specific body parts. Stephen Powell viewed women as sex objects and not people.
Yep.
Rules didn't apply to him, and if he wanted something, he took it, and his daughter-in-law Susan was no exception.
Oh, no.
Stephen saw Susan, say that 3 times fast, as the ultimate prize. He thought that she was deliberately flirting with him, despite the fact that she kept saying, no, I'm not.
Yeah, you creep me out, dude.
Yeah. He wrote a song for her, and I didn't put it in here because I just couldn't repeat it.
Oh, wow.
It's creep factor beyond creep factor, and I cover some sick shit sometimes.
But this is
couldn't. You could feel free to look it up. It's out there on the net. I couldn't do it.
Okay, fair enough.
I just couldn't. So Stephen apparently made no effort to hide any of this behavior from Josh. Yeah. In 2012, there were thousands of pages of police reports, video, audio, and written diary entries showing Stephen's obsession with Susan.
Wow.
In one diary entry, he wrote, "What has driven me in the past year is primarily lust. I have never lusted for a woman as I have for Susan. I take chances sometimes to take video clips of her, which I watch regularly. How I would love to kiss those lips."
Huh.
He detailed how he went through Susan's laundry and masturbated with her underwear and to photos of her twice in her presence.
In her presence?
Mm-hmm. He admitted slipping a mirror under the bathroom door to spy on Susan when she went to the bathroom. He further wrote, "The fact is, I can hardly control myself when it comes to her." He kept items of Susan's, and they found this stuff, including cotton balls she used to remove nail polish, pairs of her panties in Ziploc bags, toenail clippings, hair clippings, used sanitary napkins, and other souvenirs, all dated with Susan's name on them. Yeah. And I wouldn't put the song in here. Imagine. In one of his last journal entries, he wrote that he would be devastated if he found out Susan was dead and that he was so in love with her that he could barely function.
Wow.
Yeah. Some messed up dude. Police also been investigating Michael, the brother.
Yeah.
Michael had sold his Ford Taurus to a wrecking yard, and they later found that he had ordered satellite images of the lot. The car was found, and sniffer dogs detected the smell from a decomposing body that had been in the trunk, but DNA turned up inconclusive.
Okay.
And Michael fiercely defended Josh and his father, once writing on SusanPowell.org that he didn't believe police had enough evidence to support the voyeurism charges against his dad.
Uh-huh. Even though they had
so much
mounds of evidence, including statements written in his own hand.
Yeah, in his own diary.
Yeah.
On September 14th, 2011, a potential gravesite was discovered while searching Topaz Mountain. Joshua apparently...
Where the crystals are.
And it said that Joshua frequently used it as a campsite. I think it's funny here in my notes. I missed.
Well, you said Topaz. I was like, where the crystals are.
I put here that Joshua frequently used as a gravesite, campsite.
Right on.
Sniffer dogs detected a scent here and there were signs of recent shoveling, but no remains were found. Police did raid Josh and Stephen's home in 2011. Josh and Stephen spoke to the news about journals Susan had allegedly written about her relationship with Stephen.
Uh-huh.
Sick. Stephen claimed he and Susan had been falling in love prior to her disappearance, and the contents of the journal supported his theory that she was mentally unstable and could have run away with another man. Luckily, a judge issued an injunction forbidding Josh and Stephen from publishing material from the journals and ordered them returned.
Yeah.
Returned or destroyed.
Okay. All right. I realize that I'm going to say this. I'm a fairly normal individual.
I'm sorry. What?
Okay.
Go back. Say that one more time.
Okay. I am not a sociopath.
Okay. All right.
Because,
now I'm with you.
Okay. My first concern would be my children.
Sure.
Why would you bad rap these little kids missing mom?
Right.
For any reason, if they're your kids. Now, okay, I can kind of see the brother. I can get that. But you do not bad rap your spouse in front of your kids if you want your kids to be healthy.
Right.
For their mental being.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're absolutely 100%. It baffles me, the people that have divorce and have very open... derogatory things to say against the other parent of their child.
Yeah. And again, what you say to another adult's one thing. You don't let that get out so your kids can hear it.
Right. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
This is making me so mad I can hardly stand it. So I'm sorry, please go ahead.
No, I'm with you. On September 2nd, 2011, Stephen was arrested on charges of voyeurism and child pornography after police found evidence he had secretly videotaped numerous young women and girls, including Susan. A friend claimed that Stephen was preoccupied with porn and was hung up on Susan sexually.
Okay. Which we already knew because they had thousands of documents.
Right.
And a song, apparently.
I'm telling you, it's terrible. So Chuck Cox, Susan's father, filed for custody of the children the very next day.
Of course.
And was eventually given temporary custody.
Uh-huh.
The court ruled that Josh would have to move out of Stephen's house in order to regain custody.
Uh-huh.
So Josh rented a house in South Hills, Washington, but authorities later alleged that he had never actually moved in and just used it to appear as if he had satisfied the court's instructions.
Right on.
That he continued living with Stephen.
Yeah.
By late September, West Valley City Police had spent more than $500,000 on the case. And on September 28th, Mayor Mike Winder said he felt the case was worth the expense, stating, quote, "We feel that we are getting to that tipping point where we have more hot evidence than we have had in the past 2 years.
Okay.
And that the case would be moving forward."
Okay.
In late 2011, Josh underwent court-ordered psychiatric evaluations in Washington by James Manley. Josh was determined to have adequate parenting skills, a steady employment history, no criminal record, and no history of domestic violence. He apparently, he bounced back and forth for jobs for a while, but apparently he had stayed steady for a while. James Manley also noted, however, that Josh failed to admit normal personal shortcomings, his overbearing behavior with his sons, and his persistent defensiveness and paranoia. Manley's recommendation was that Josh should have visitation rights with his sons, but only with supervision of a social worker.
Okay.
In late January 2012, Utah police discovered about 400 images of child porn, bestiality, and incest on a computer seized from the family home. Now, here's the devil's advocate side again. The computer was purchased secondhand by Susan.
Okay.
So, Utah authorities really kind of misled the court on this, and they accused Joshua of having viewed the images. It turned out that he had not. It was not his.
It was a secondhand computer with some. Yeah, they didn't re-image the machine.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, we're all IT people here, folks.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If you get a secondhand computer, you want to put
that thing clean.
Yeah, you want to reformat the disk and put a new operating system on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then it's fine.
Yeah. Manley, however, did say that that these were cause for great concern and that Josh should have a more thorough psychosexual evaluation and polygraph test, and he suggested there should be no change in the visitation schedule with the boys. Okay. So still get to visit your boys. Social worker has to be present.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Michael, again, Josh's brother, established a Google Sites page which claims Susan's parents were abusing and neglecting the boys in collusion with child welfare, and that West Valley police had mishandled the investigation and were harassing Joshua. Google removed the sites after a few days because of terms of U.S. violations.
Yeah. Because, that's probably a big load of bullsh, as it were.
Oh, yeah. On February 5th, 2012,
My heart goes out to Chuck Cox, by the way.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah, you should watch this video.
Okay.
You really should. On February 5th, 2012, social worker Elizabeth Hall took the boys to a supervised visit at Josh's house in South Hills. When they arrived at the door, Josh grabbed them and shut the door and no longer allowed Elizabeth access. Elizabeth pounded on the door and pleaded with Josh to let her in. And from inside the house, she heard Josh say, "Charlie, I've got a big surprise for you," followed by Braden crying. This doesn't get good. Elizabeth then smelled gas. She ran to her car and moved it, fearing that her car would blow up, and she called 911. And I kind of felt bad. The dispatcher didn't realize how serious of a call this was. They play the 911 call. And I read a story somewhere that this 911 operator had to get treatment after this, psychological treatment, because they felt horrible. He asked for details like the description of her car, but he didn't seem to hear anything else. He told her that the next available deputy would respond, but deputies have to respond to emergencies, life-threatening situations first.
I smell gas.
I know.
This is a thing.
Yeah.
Court ordered. You need to get somebody over here now.
Right. So Elizabeth then called her supervisor to tell her something
Yeah.
was happening.
Yeah.
And then the house exploded. It took 22 minutes for help to arrive, and by then Joshua and the 2 children were dead. Police said it was a murder-suicide, and the explosion appeared to have been deliberate. The official cause of death was carbon monoxide poisoning, but the coroner noted there were some significant chopping injuries to the head and the neck. So, I mean, it really there was a hatchet that was recovered near Joshua's body. It sounded like he hit his kids over the head and then let the house fill with gas and blew it up. Yeah.
What a piece of crap.
I know.
What a piece of crap.
So yeah, there were 2 5-gallon cans of gasoline found, as were evidence that the gasoline had been spread throughout the house. Mm-hmm. So, he'd planned this.
Yeah.
Friends and relatives of Josh told police that he had contacted them by email minutes before the incident to say goodbye. There was one email, and they actually played a voicemail too. And Josh said, "I'm not able to live without my sons, and I'm not able to go on anymore. I'm sorry to everyone I've hurt. Goodbye." His local bishop received instructions for finding Josh's money and shutting off the utilities. Josh had also withdrawn $7,000 from his bank account and donated all the children's toys and books to local charities the day before the explosion. Josh named Michael as the main beneficiary of his life insurance policy, his brother. On February 11th, 2003, however, Michael took his own life in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where he had moved to go to graduate school.
Okay.
He jumped from the roof of a parking garage.
Okay.
Utah authorities have since said they believe Joshua and Michael were accomplices in Susan's murder.
Yes.
On May 20th.
That's why there were 3 people in the children's picture.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, because that was probably Josh and the 2 kids.
Okay.
And then mommy in the trunk.
Mommy in the trunk.
Right. On May 21st, 2013, West Valley Police announced that an active investigation into Susan's disappearance was closed. Stephen Powell was released from prison on July 11th, 2017, and he died a little over a year later of natural causes on July 23rd, 2018. Mm-hmm. Susan Powell remains a missing person, and as of March 2018, there have been calls to officially declare her dead, with the cause being a homicide. And the last update on this is in 2020, a jury ruled in favor of Susan's parents, Chuck and Judy Cox,
Yep.
declaring Washington State was negligent in protecting the boys during supervised visits with Josh.
Yep.
They were awarded $98 million.
Okay.
And that's the story of the disappearance of Susan Powell.
Well, that was awful.
Yeah. And, the second one I've covered where somebody blew up their house.
Yeah.
And of course we had Belle Gunnis who torched her house to the ground. So.
Yes.
Yeah, that was that was rough, but I thought that was a good story to share. It's a wild ride as it goes through it. The video again, Susan Powell, an ID murder mystery. I highly recommend watching that because it really covers this case really, really well. There's some stuff in it that I'm like, There's like I can't remember if she's a court reporter or something else, but there's this one lady who's in it quite a bit, and I just want to go, okay, you need to go away. You're a little too sensationalized. But there's the videos.
Yeah. Let's Joe Friday this. We want just the facts, ma'am.
Yeah. But, but there was good to have some opinions in it too. Mm-hmm. But the videos that Susan took, videos of her and the kids and her with Josh, I think it was well done.
Yeah.
And I would, if you want to really kind of see into this case a little bit more, I'd highly recommend watching that. So, yeah. So that's it. Well, that I think that affected Will.
That was a downer.
You know what? I told you when we went to go get lunch that this one was going to be a downer.
This is going to be a downer. That's all right.
I don't bring the happy stories.
No. Well, we did have 78 minutes of talking about Shadowrun. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. after it edits down, it'll probably be a little bit. I do again apologize. I know this is a super long episode. I again do hope you're on a road trip or sitting somewhere where you just need to kill some time.
I've been thinking about that. Maybe it's good. Most of our stuff is like between an hour and an hour and a half. I think we had one that was like 58 minutes. But yeah, I think it's good for us to have, ever so often to have one that's, a couple hours long.
Well, and it's just going to all depend on the subject matter too.
Yeah. The story needs to be told as the story needs to be told.
Well, and on the nerdery side, what I've noticed as we've gone through this, when you're discussing a nerdery item or nerdery story that we both have a lot of familiarity. God, I can't pronounce the
thing
word.
With the stuff.
The thing
we
with
know
stuff
it
that we're both familiar with.
Yes.
That's when we really get into these very detailed conversations on it because we know it so well. When you talked about the French director,
Jean-Pierre Junot.
Yeah. I didn't know a whole lot about that. And so, I had stuff to talk about in certain places, but for the most part, I'm listening and I'm learning. So yeah, as we go through this on episodes like this, where it's just on the nerdery side, things that we both are nerd out about, those are probably going to be longer episodes.
Star Trek, Star Wars,
right.
Shadowrun.
Again, I hope people enjoy it. These may be the episodes where they go, yeah, I can't listen to those two. I'm going to skip forward to the Murdery, or I'm going to skip forward to the next episode, or worse, or I'm not going to listen to you anymore.
I'm not going to listen to you anymore.
I don't want to. I don't want to see that.
I don't want that.
But yeah. So I hope everybody enjoys listening to it. We've said it more times than one. This was really Will's idea in the first place. Listening to idiots talking, thinking that we ought to broadcast our little talks out to the world. So, that's all I have. Do you have anything? Anything else?
I'd like to give a shout out to my niece, Allison Heflin. She graduated high school this weekend. That's where we were last night.
Great. Awesome. Congratulations.
At Waxahachie. 653 kids in their graduating class.
Nice.
That was a long graduation.
So that's more than mine. Mine was 504, 503, 504?
Yeah, I want to say mine was like 400, that was a big class for Western Hills. Yeah.
Wow. Well, no, congratulations.
Yep.
Congratulations on that.
She's going to A&M.
Nice. Seen a whole lot of graduations happening. West Point had their first in-person graduation.
Nice.
I've seen UNT in high schools. They're, things are starting to come back. We're starting to get life back a little bit normal.
Yes,
we're not quite there yet.
No, they're starting to. We're getting live theater. By the time of this broadcast, there's live theater going on. So, and we will get into some of that too. So. Well,
and I hope it does because when we go to Vegas in August, I'd like to go to a Cirque. I'd like to take Chelsea to one. So I kind of hope shows are back. I keep watching. I haven't seen them back yet. But I've been to two. I've been to Beatles Love and Mystere. Both were outstanding. They were excellent. Loved them. And I'd like to go see O. It's the underwater one. Will's mouthing it over there, but no noise is actually coming out of his mouth.
Sorry, my throat's a little messed up. I was going to do some more voices today. It was like, I just can't do it.
Yeah, that's all right. That's right. Anything else on your end?
No, that was it. I just wanted to give a shout out to Allison because she's awesome. Oh, and yeah, my brother-in-law and my nephew, his son, were like, what are you guys going to broadcast? I was like, just hit the link. He's like, we watched some videos. We thought it was pretty funny, but we didn't know what you guys were talking about.
Of course not.
I was like, you need to, June 6th, listen, it's really funny.
Right. Awesome. So, with that, you can find us on our website at nerderyandmurdery.com. That's where our contact info, if you want to talk nerdery with Zig or talk murdery with me, or you can talk murdery with him and nerdery with me. I don't care.
That's fine. I need ideas.
I have plenty. I'll take them. But I have plenty. You can also talk with Will about whatever you want to talk about. Find out, how he feels about sitting over listening to us. I'm relatively certain I caught him napping a couple of times. So
Shadowrun. I think we had him going there.
I definitely saw his eyes glazing over.
Just
so
a little bit.
but you can email him. There's a link to our Patreon for anyone who wishes to help support us. We do thank you for that.
Thank you, and please.
You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And with that, until next week.
I have been Zig with your Nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your Murdery.
And we have been Nerdery and Murdery. Cue the music.